The last thing we're going to look at, and I won't go too in depth in this because we already talked about the workplace. But do you have any ideas on, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but
Yes, you do. You definitely mean to.
how you would increase productivity at work?
If I was the leader.
Yeah. If you were a boss kind of thing.
Well, based on all of the research that we've been covering, I think I would give them partial reinforcements consistently.
Consistently partial.
Yes, that's exactly the way we like to do things.
Yeah, what I just mentioned with the kids, you need to actually have direction. If you want to be a good leader, you have to give them direction. You can't just say, don't do this, do this.
Mm-hmm.
Show them and create the vision in their head so they can take accountability, I guess, for what they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So part of that is the partial reinforcement. And this would increase the motivation of individuals and the self-confidence.
Nice.
Yes. There was a study by Assure and Johns that they found that a restriction to whether rewards or punishments can influence behavior is relative to the subordinates' experiences with that particular leader. And a leader is more effective if he is respective.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
And the other part of the other stuff they found was that the influence is also respective to the value of the incentive.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that would be the size of the raise. 10-cent raise. I don't know if it's very motivational.
A year membership to the
Bean Club.
Yeah. To the Jelly Bean Club.
Oh, Jelly Bean Club.
Might not be so incentive. Might get you kidnapped.
If you know that movie, leave it in the comments. The other thing was whether the incentives are properly given. So if they actually do something good, mm-hmm. and how often they're used. So don't overuse raises.
Yes, exactly like we were talking about before. If it just becomes too predictable, mm-hmm. then it's not going to have the same impact.
Mm-hmm. The other part of being a good leader is creating a culture. And makes me think of, I've been in kind of a work culture. I've been in both, obviously. The work teams that I've worked with where I've absolutely loved, and the environment is everyone wants to learn kind of thing. And I've mm-hmm. also been in toxic environments where no one works together and everyone's kind of just trying to one up people.
Oh man, okay, sorry. You just did your like turn away thing to like burp again.
I don't know, we might have to cut this one out.
Yeah, for me, I'm doing work right now at the Ontario Tobacco Research Unit, and wow, I love my work environment. Like everyone that I've worked on different projects with has just been so amazing, so supportive, super collaborative, always receptive to feedback and offering really encouraging and practical feedback on mm-hmm. your work. And it's just really, especially being kind of from academia where there's stereotypes about things being kind of like cutthroat, right? Mm-hmm. It's really nice to be in this kind of environment where the people that I'm working with are always just wanting to build each other up and wanting to author things together, and very, you know, generous with authorship to people and bringing people onto projects. There's no weirdness of like, oh, this is what I'm working on. Like, I own this project or something. It's just very much like, oh yeah, if you can contribute, like, we'd love to have you on. So it's been a really great experience.
It's hard to tell this, but like, do you think it has to do
with the leadership?
Yes.
Absolutely. And I'm not just biased because my boss is also my supervisor for my dissertation, but 100% he's the person, you know, at the top who really feeds into and creates this positive culture at work. So if his behavior was different and cold and not inclusive or something, I think it would absolutely have an impact on the way that the employees work together. But he's such a collaborative person and so inclusive with people and supportive of ideas and new approaches to things that I think it really creates a positive environment.
I actually got a tip from one of my old coaches, and like, super smart guy. I looked up to this guy. Like, he's pretty impressive. Like, he was president of the CCAA, Canadian Collegiate Athletics Association, and just like amazing coach. And he told me, and this is probably the one thing, if someone's to ask me, what's one piece of advice that really stuck with you? It would be, the best way to destroy a team is having favoritism. And if the way you can earn respect as a leader is you have to treat everyone the same. So that means don't restrict certain people in your group. I don't know if that could be because they're less talented. Give them the same amount of freedom that you would give to other people, because that can easily destroy, whether it just destroys their incentive or self-confidence. There's a lot of things, but that's really stuck to me, and I've thought about it a lot.
Yeah, I absolutely think that makes sense. You know, Julian and I both grew up playing on lots of different sport teams, and I can certainly think back to situations where on teams, I think everyone was aware of who the coach's favorites were and stuff, and it definitely did not create positive environments and collaboration and instill confidence in the players, because you felt like you would never be able to compete with those other players, right? So,
Yep. Yeah, and like, not to say that the coaching style of picking favorites is like the worst coaching style. Maybe it motivates other people sometimes to be better. I don't know. But I would say it's not as effective as treating everyone the same.
Yeah, I also think it has negative impacts on the favorites, though, as well. Like, maybe not in every situation, but I can certainly see where teammates then might have, you know, negative animosity built up towards the player or teammate who's being favorited by the coach. And it also can create circumstances where you kind of get in that like winner mindset, right? That we've talked about before in another episode, where you just expect that things are going to be like good always. And
well, you said before about expecting the praise and rewards and stuff.
Yeah.
So I would say it limits the learning of those favorite players. Like, they'll just stay at the level they are. Obviously, dependent on the person. Some people are very motivated to always, and it has nothing to do with the coach, right? But the coach just ends up picking a favorite.
Yeah, for sure. Anything we're talking about, there's so many external factors that can come into play. But
Yep. The last thing I will say on leadership is that you should provide updates on performance and tools how to improve. You can't just train them off the bat and like, here you go. Just let them know if they're doing good or not, and giving kind of regular updates, or just like making sure you do, it kind of creates that environment that people want to learn and can fix their habits. Otherwise, maybe people are afraid of showing the negative things or things they aren't good at.
Yeah, and to build on to that, I think when it comes to positive reinforcement, there's also a value in having concrete positive reinforcement. So you're kind of touching on that, but calling out exactly what it is that that person's doing well. So they know in the future that doing things exactly like this are good versus kind of just generalizing positive reinforcement and just being like, oh, good job. But then they're like, okay, well, I just completed a very complex project for you. Was everything about it good? Are there some things I could improve? Was something about it exceptional? And so I think taking the time to actually give that concrete feedback to people is way more beneficial.
I've definitely done this a lot more in the last few years. I always look for one thing that's wrong, at least one thing that's wrong. Someone asked me to look over something. Because to me, if I don't get any feedback, it just seems like either I think they didn't even read it or that they just don't care. Whether that means they just trust me or not, it's nice to get feedback. So.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good habit to have.